Good morning, Year 9. I hope you're all well and enjoyed your lesson with Miss Norton on Monday, where you annotated page 8 to 9, looking at the character of Cassius. So today we're going to be doing a reading task, looking at how flattery is being used as a rhetorical device by Shakespeare to show how manipulative Cassius is. So you will need to turn to page 8 to 9 in your Julius Caesar anthology. Your title is in purple on the screen, Flattery as a Rhetorical Device. Remember, you can pause the video to catch up. Right, so we're going to start with a true or false. 1 to 10 in your books, please, and you can simply write true or false next to your number. This will check your knowledge from Miss Norton's lesson. You'll also find the answers on page 8 to 9. So, number 1. Cassius asked Brutus to bless his wife during the races. Is that true or false? Number 2. A soothsayer is a person who predicts the future. Is that true or false? Number 3. The Ides of March refers to the 15th of March. Is that true or is that false? Number 4. Cassius calls Brutus noble Brutus. Is that true or is that false? Number 5. Brutus fears Cassius will become king. Is that true or is that false? And number 6. Brutus loves honour more than death. Is that true or is that false? Number 7. Cassius thinks Caesar has become a god. True or false? And number 8. Cassius believes Brutus' fault is in our stars. Is that true or is that false? Number 9. Caesar claims Cassius is dangerous. Is that true or is that false? And last one, number 10. Antony reassures Caesar. Okay, so you can pause the video to catch up, remember? And here are our answers. So number 1 was actually false. He does not ask Brutus to bless his wife during the races. Number 2, 3 and 4 were true. Number 5, Brutus does not fear Cassius will become king. Number 6 and 7 were true. Number 8 was false. He actually says Brutus. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Number 9 was true, and number 10 was true. So give yourself a mark out of 10. Right, so I'd like you to copy this into your books, please. Your title or subtitle, Flattery as a Rhetorical Device. So we're looking at how can flattery persuade. So, a definition first. So flattery. This is excessive praise given to get your own way. It's really over the top, really, you've probably heard of the term hyperbola. And this is really like exaggerated flattery, being really over the top. So an example would be being overly nice to your teacher to try and get out of a homework detention. And this leads us, I think, to another key term that we need to copy down in our books in bold. Manipulation. This means to control or influence a person or situation cleverly to get your own way. So an example with this would be peer pressuring somebody to make a decision they don't want to. Right, so I'm going to move on. Again, if you want to pause the video. So how could you flatter, manipulate someone? I want you to imagine you want to get out of a homework detention really badly. You might try to flatter and manipulate your teacher to get your own way. Can you list for me in your books 3 strategies you could use in order to achieve this with some examples? You might want to pause this video for 5 minutes. So here are some answers that you can tick or you can add. So I talked about hyperbole before, not hyperbole. This is exaggeration, really being over the top. Compliments, they can be used to persuade somebody, to gain their trust, and positive lexis as well. And you remember that lexis means words, and I'm sure you came across this in your reading of Act 1, Scene 2 with Miss Norton yesterday. So, considering this, how does Cassius, or that should have a capital C, use flattery to manipulate Brutus? I want you to have a look at your text and your annotations on page 8 to 9. And I'd like you really to highlight and pick out some quotes here to show how Cassius manipulates Brutus using the flattery as a device. So positive lexis, hyperbole, compliments. Thinking then, how does Cassius compliment Brutus in order to get Brutus on his side? And then you can identify these in the text, underline and make notes. I would say 5 minutes if you can pause the video. So next task. Again, a little subtitle please. My word, what's going on with capitals today? So capital C there for Cassius. How does Shakespeare present Cassius in Act 1, Scene 2? Write down at least 3 adjectives to describe how Cassius is presented in this scene. So I want some describing words as ambitious as you can. I don't want to see just positive, negative, nice. See if you can be really ambitious. I would pause the video here for 3 minutes. So these are some that you could have got. Manipulative, cunning, sly, vindictive, untrustworthy, unscrupulous, calculating and scheming. You can copy those down. Again, pause this page to do that. So you will have picked out some quotations. These are some that you might have picked out. If you haven't, just copy these into your books. So we're going to do a quote explosion here. I want you to have a look at these quotes, write them down and draw a box around them. Then I want you to annotate them. So I want you to underline key words, do some arrows. For example, what does the modal verb will do? What does Cassius mean? Do we see any hyperbole, any compliments, and any positive lexis? Just like we would do in class, folks. So if you can pause the video for 10 minutes, you might want to print out this page as well. Obviously, don't worry if you haven't got a printer. You can write it down. Right, here are some of my annotations. You might want to add to these or tick or add what you've got. So the first one, when Cassius says, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself, that of yourself, which you yet know not of. And Cassius really says that, it's really saying here that he knows Brutus so well that he knows what he's thinking all the time. He's almost like his looking glass. He's like when he looks in a mirror, Cassius says, I know what you're thinking, Brutus. I can read your mind. And Brutus is quite happy to listen to talks of his own merits here about this about being honourable and being good. But Cassius says, look, I'm not flattering you. I went with that use of the adverb modestly. He says, but you need to trust me because I know you so well. So he's really playing on his internal troubles here. All right, so he's using the idea of modest to be able to persuade him. Dear Brutus means to regard with deep affection through that positive adjective dear. And again, we've got a positive adjective with good Brutus, which shows his approval. He thinks of him as a high, in terms of a high standard and compliments him. Honour is the subject of my story. He knows how honourable Brutus is and he plays on that. He knows about Brutus's family history and how honourable they were. So he knows that it's wrong for Caesar, to be in charge. So you've got some hyperbole there. So you're going to do a write-up for me, please. How does Shakespeare present Cassius in Act 1, Scene 2? So there are some sentence openers here I would like you to complete. You will need a quotation from the previous slide. Once you've done this first example, you might want to do a few more, put a few more quotes into sentences to write these up. I would love it if you could send some examples of your work so I can mark them and feed back to you as well. So if you can pause this screen for 10 minutes, have a go at your writing, and then I'm going to show you my example. So does yours look like mine? Cassius is presented as manipulative in Act 1, Scene 2 through his persistent attempt to flatter Brutus to ensure he elicits his trust. Significantly, Cassius says to Brutus, "I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of yourself which you yet not know of." I've inserted a quote. Explain. This illustrates Cassius' seduction of Brutus, who claims to know Brutus more than himself, eliciting his trust. In particular, the hyperbolic verb know could convey that Cassius knows Brutus's internal thoughts. Shakespeare's use of flattery is powerful because it allows Cassius to earn Brutus's trust to make him feel compliant in his plans. Overall, Cassius is presented as untrustworthy, who can skillfully persuade Brutus into doubting his own views.